The National Spectrum Consortium will award $2.5 billion for rapid prototyping for the electromagnetic spectrum. 5G, cloud computing, and augmented reality are some of the technologies recipients of the funding will explore. Sal D'Itri is chairman of the National Spectrum Consortium. He's vice president, general manager for Federal Federated Wireless. Sal, thanks for joining me to talk about the work that the NSC is doing. Congratulations on this award. Who do you want to make proposals, and what kind of proposals do you want to get from the partners that will be going after this grant, this money?
Francis, great to join you again. Thanks for having me back on the show. I think a couple of things that strike me about Spectrum Forward and this opportunity is one, it's a doubling of our prior effort in spectrum and wireless with the Department of Defense. And I think that comes at a time as we look at the growth in 5G as it rolls out nationwide and globally, our globally competitive nature in the space. We see the launch of things like spectrum sharing in this country, very successful auctions. We see very large C-band spectrum auctions now that are breaking records. It makes sense that the DoD is now doubling down on this investment in spectrum and then in 5G. So there are a lot of different companies who are coming to us. I'd also add into that, as we look at spectrum as a warfighting domain, that the country that has ubiquitous connectivity is going to win the fight in the future. And so there are numerous opportunities in Spectrum Forward for companies, whether they are in 5G, spectrum sharing, electronic warfare, ISR, new RF innovations, to come and work through the National Spectrum Consortium. We've seen almost a doubling of our membership since you and I spoke about a year ago.
What is happening in this business right now on the industry side and on the academia side? You alluded to what's happening on the government side, and the note that I have here says the consortium, according to Inside Defense, established in 2015. That was a 5-year, $1.25 billion OTA. And so I think your doubling down analogy is right on target. What's going on today, and what do we expect to see in the coming years that would cause the Pentagon to come back in 5 years and say, okay, we want to continue again?
Well, first, just global trends in wireless growth, both in this country, as we see globally, there's a huge demand for wireless growth and more capacity and speeds. In the commercial industry, that's true as well for the Department of Defense, as they're looking more at autonomous systems, the fourth industrial revolution, IoT, smart logistics. These are all going to be powered by wireless spectrum, 5G and 6G technology. So I really think we're on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, and automation and smart technologies, and all of that is going to be driving wireless. So I think we will see 5 years from now continued growth in this area. What's happening right now, as we see, is within the consortium, since you and I spoke, is we have had some successful awards of RFPs in spectrum in 5G. We just had the industry day here in December to launch off some additional RFPs in spectrum that we see here in January and February. There's going to be a round of industry days coming up here for some additional 5G RFPs. So we're looking at as many as a dozen RFPs potentially coming out just in the first quarter.
Quick sidebar, because
in terms of the capability.
A quick sidebar that's not related to 5G, Sal. What's an industry day look like in a virtual environment that we live in today?
Well, that's an interesting point. It really gets back to one of the big hallmarks of the consortium is our collaborative nature. So unlike a traditional FAR contract, under the OTA, you can reach out and contact a program manager or a principal investigator anytime during the RFP process, including the very last week of the RFP. And that allows for a tremendous amount of collaboration. So it's not simply attending one event and then you've got a proposal due maybe 30, 60 days later. It's an ongoing series of conversations. And the format seems to work well over Zoom and some of the other technologies, the wireless remote technologies. So I think it's one of the big strengths of the OTA is that you can keep coming back and having one-on-one meetings with folks, in this virtual environment, which is quite different than a traditional FAR-based contract.
I apologize for going in a completely different direction, but it's one of those kind of process things that people I don't think are thinking about as much in the virtual environment that we live in, and it sounds like we're going to live in this world for a fair amount of time yet. In the time that we have left, what's the timeline look like for the department? You have this ability now to evaluate these proposals and make these awards. At what point in time do you expect that you'll be able to go back to the department and say, okay, here's one that we'd like you to take a look at?
Well, just to kind of lay out the process, the Department of Defense hosts a collaboration event with our members. So the department itself will then put out a request for RFPs from which the members will then competitively bid on those RFPs. Finally, then the department will come back and make an award on that. So they've already lined up several RFPs in the area of spectrum and 5G that are coming out this year. And one of the benefits of the OTA is from the time an RFP hits the street, the proposals are due very quickly, about 30 days, 45 days afterwards. And then, there's an expedited process to get folks under contract a few months after award. So we see opportunities here in the first quarter, in the first half of the year for our members and the partners to capitalize on 5G and wireless RFPs.
Sal D'Itri, thanks very much for coming back. Great to have you.
Thanks, Francis. Appreciated it.